Talk about 15-minute cities, and Debbie spoke to us then, and she's kindly come again today to speak with us. We're now expanding this to talk about, especially in Wales with the 20-minute speed limits coming in next month, the attack on motoring and generally making it more hard to travel around, which is another part of this. And the various climate scare stories which have been going around the news in the last few months, although then we find that all these fires have been caused by arson, and it's nothing to do with climate change at all. So I'd like to introduce Debbie. Debbie, thank you very much for coming all the way to Cardiff to speak to us again, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much. Oh God, I'm so loud, I don't need a megaphone. But anyway, thank you for coming out in the rain and hanging around, because I appreciate there's probably other things you'd like to be doing today. So I'll try and keep it brief. I'm going to talk to you today because for the last 18 months, I have been going around the country, all different groups and communities and towns and cities. I was even up in Glasgow a couple of weeks ago. Because it's much, you think you've got a problem in Wales getting people active, it's even worse up in Scotland. They are fast asleep in Scotland about what's going on in the world. So I go all over the place, and I started this in February last year. I started going out because I felt so passionately that the issue of issues that we have to act on is the cashless society. To me, and I still feel this passionately, that going cashless, and I talk about this today with a much more receptive public walking past than when I started in February last year. That's how far we've come in 18 months. But when I started in February last year, nobody wanted to know. Hardly any activists wanted to join me. I was being attacked for campaigning to keep cash. I had lots of people, and you're welcome to come and debate with this with me afterwards, saying, Debbie, no, why are you wasting your time trying to save cash? It's going to happen anyway. Let's go down the cryptocurrency route. I'm sorry. Look into it, guys. Yes, I am a conspiracy theorist, a proud one. A very rational, reasonable one, actually, because I don't believe in every conspiracy theory, but a lot of conspiracies are actually fact. And if you look into it, guess who started the whole crypto thing? Guess who started it? Does any of you know him? The CIA. Oh, come on. It's set up to normalise central bank digital currency. It's what it's all about. It's about normalising digital money, money that's programmed. That's what it's all about. So I argued with those people back then, no, crypto is not the way. We need to save cash. We need to keep cash in society, because cash, as you all know here, and I'm talking to the public as well today, so forgive me if you've heard these things before, cash is our freedom in the United Kingdom. It's the ultimate freedom, because absolutely, it's ultimate freedom. Once they take it away, and they're starting to do it, I'm sure you've noticed that, it's getting worse every week. I've had 2 bank accounts frozen. I had 2 bank accounts frozen. The first one was a HSBC account. And when my first, hello, what would you like? Did you want to say something? Or?
Andy Binyet.
Sorry?
Andy Binyet. As well.
What did he say? Does someone want to tell me? Independent. Was it polite? I hope it was. Anyway, I've had 2 bank accounts frozen. I had my HSBC account frozen about 2 months ago. And on the first occasion, my instant thought was, this is political, it's because of what I do. I'm a keep cash campaigner. And whatever we did, I went into HSBC, we phoned up the phone lines out in India. I went into the local branch in Swindon, because that's where I live, near Swindon. And I was reassured, oh no, don't worry, it's just glitches in the system. We'll unblock it, and it's kept being frozen all the time. My cards are swallowed up in the cash point. We couldn't put money in and out of the account, we couldn't pay any bills. And luckily, because I knew this time was coming a long time ago, I've opened up several bank accounts, I've got several. So they didn't catch me out. I was okay, and luckily, and this is the lesson, I had cash at home in a safe. I always keep cash in a safe. Do the same. Try and keep cash at home. Because what happened is I was at a petrol station, and I think some of you may have seen that live I did at a petrol station when I couldn't pay for my fuel. And they wouldn't take a payment in any other way over the phone, and my husband had to drive 30 miles to pay the bill so I could leave the petrol station. And of course I was going to protest, as I always am. Isn't that funny? But anyway, I went to see my local MP, and he said the same to me. He said, "Oh, don't worry, Mrs. Hicks." He said, "I think it's just the listen to this, the new banking algorithms are kicking in. You're a victim of the banking algorithms, don't worry. It's not like Nigel Farage, nothing like that. You're not a politically exposed person, a PEP, so they can't do that to you. Don't worry." I said, "Okay." He said, "Come back." He said, "You can't open a new bank account." Then 2 weeks later, I have a nationwide account frozen. Now that's it. I'm 100% convinced this is political. Now, we've managed to open a co-op bank account, despite them also being part of this agenda, they all are. And what I would say to you is, if you can, co-op do a cash-friendly bank account, which is what I've opened. Look into it. There's a cash-friendly account that businesses can use, the public can use, where you don't get punished if you're taking cash out, which is what I think, is it NatWest? NatWest have just announced the punishments, isn't it, the limits if you take out cash. But anyway, those two accounts, HSBC and Nationwide, they're still frozen, and we're managing to use the other accounts. Because lawfully, they can't shut my bank account down, but they can freeze your bank account. So, I'm giving you this example because what's happening is it's closing in. The cashless society is closing in. And they're freezing bank accounts. Apparently there's 5 million bank accounts that have had this happen to them. All sorts of people that run businesses with cash are also getting this happening to them. Other campaigners that I meet that have had this happen to them. Louise Crefeld, who you may have heard of, also has had her personal bank account, and her account she used to use for saver rights has been frozen. It's happening to lots of people. It's kicking in. That's programmable money. That's what they're doing. They're trying to program my money because I'm an activist. And they always start, remember the poem in Nazi Germany from the pastor, Nimola? First they came, I think it started with first, they came for the socialist. They went for everybody, but then they came for me. I can't remember the words. They are coming for all of you. It's not just me. It's not just Louise Crefeld. It's not just Nigel Farage, whatever we think of him. They're coming for your bank accounts because that's what programmable money means. A cashless society with digital money means all of your money can be programmed. And that means that if they start setting limits on what they want you to spend your money on, and they'll do it through your phone, not having a go, I'm not picking at you, this lovely lady here that I'm looking at, but it's all going to be done through phones. And then they want to move on to even more advanced, what they call biometric technology to control our money. In other countries, they're using fingerprints and retina scans to pay for money. In Sweden, 20% of the population have chips in their hands. Sounds a bit like a crazy sci-fi film, but that is fact. Check it out. And they use it to access buildings, their bank accounts, and their shops in Sweden. That is the banking. It's the banks that are doing this. This is the banking agenda that's rolling out around the world. Everywhere. It's not a West versus East. It's everywhere. China are doing this. Russia are doing this. Despite what you might think about the war that's going on there, they're all doing it. This digital agenda is being rolled out everywhere. So it's serious, and we need to fight back, because here in Cardiff, London with the EULAs that you might be following on the news, and that's going to collapse as well, I put my money on it. Liverpool, there's a big plan to split Liverpool into zones. They're trying to control your movements. They don't want you to travel. It's not about cars. It's not about climate change. They don't want people to travel in the UK. They want you to live in your wonderful little 15-minute cities, or your zones, or your districts. That sounds very dystopian, doesn't it, from the Hunger Games. They want you If you look into the blueprint of what they've got here in Cardiff, they want you to stay here in Cardiff. That might be nice for some of you, but it means you have to stay here all the time and you can't travel outside. Because digitally, if we go cashless, they will digitally, through your cards, through your bank account, stop you travelling. Your money will be cut off if you're travelling too much. Because you're going to have a big carbon footprint, Stephen, with all the travelling that you do. Naughty, naughty. No, Stephen, no more protests. No more coming into Cardiff because you've got a big carbon footprint. That includes me. That will include all of you that have a car here. Put your hands up if you have a car or a vehicle. Yes, and why can't you? You live in a free society and you need to travel. And do you really think, I say to the British public listening, do you really think carbon footprint's just going to be for car drivers? No, look into it further. Look into the net zero agenda, and there's a big article on this on the Treasury website and the Department for Trade and Industry, the Department for Commerce and Trade and Industry. There's a big article about net zero, this idea that we have to get to zero carbon, it has to level out with inputs and outputs, and it also means limiting your journeys by bus, by train, everywhere by plane. Look into it further. They want to stop all air travel. You're gonna think, oh, that woman's mad, but check it out. They want to close all the airports in the UK so that you can't go on holiday. So if you've just come back from holiday, anyone been on holiday? Because I'm going to be really jealous of you. I haven't been on holiday for years. I hate you now, but I need a holiday. But that could be, and I'm trying to scare you, that could be your last holiday. Because 2030, you've got a few more years to use planes. 2030 is the target date to stop air travel. But you know who's going to be going in planes, don't you?
Yeah, the elite. Tony Blair.
They will! Bill Gates, Tony Blair, Rishi Sunak, Joe Biden. They'll still be in the planes. The very wealthy will be jetting all over the world with their huge carbon footprints. So it's the same old shit, let's be honest. One rule for them, one rule for us. And we're not going to have it, are we? No! We are fed up with their division, their lies, and their control. And let's call this for what it really is. This isn't about the climate. And anyone that thinks about the climate, come and talk to me afterwards, I'd like to talk to you. It's not about the climate. It is not about pollution in London with the ULEZ. One person that's died of pollution, apparently. That's real reason to lock down the whole of London, charge you £12.50 a day. It's not about pollution. It is about controlling you. That is what it's about. They want ultimate, absolute control over your lives. And there's another name for that people don't like us calling. I'll tell you what it's called. It's called a tyranny. We are moving into an absolute tyranny on a scale we haven't seen before. And here we are. What can I say that won't create division? We don't mean any division here today. Do you know what we stand for? I think it's amazing that you feel you're standing for a worthy cause, but I urge the people here today, go and look into who funds the Ukraine. Where all the money laundering is happening in the Ukraine. What's really happening with the war there? Because there are neo-Nazis that manage the Ukrainian system and the Ukrainian country. And I'm not having a go. I'm asking you if you feel passionately about peace, as we do, and ending war, I kindly ask you to go away and look into the truth of the Ukrainian war. Thank you. We are for peace. We are anti-war here. I'm sure everybody agrees with me. We are anti-war. We are for peace. Come and speak to me afterwards, sir. I'm not stopping for you. Come and speak to me afterwards.
Anybody in your family bombed? Any children killed? No.
Look into the funding. I do know what I'm talking about, sir. My family comes from Eastern Europe. I know very much what happens in that area of the world. My family come from Poland.
Right, and Poland is supporting Ukraine.
Not everybody in Poland. The Polish people do not support the Ukrainian war, sir. No, they don't. Most of the...
United Kingdom, you're talking rubbish. Children are murdered day after day.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
How can they get peace when they
I'm going to continue. Come and speak to me afterwards without being...
Why don't we see it? We have
Come and talk to me afterwards without being violent, sir. I'm going to continue. Yeah, okay. Right, I'm going to continue. Our message, he can come and talk to me afterwards. Our message here, and he's actually done us a favour, look at all the people listening. Our message here today is one of peace. And what I was going to finish on when I was talking about cash and the 15-minute cities, and by the way, they started a digital currency in Ukraine. Trial country for everything. They started CBDC in the Ukraine. So it's interesting that they walk past as I'm talking about central bank digital currency, because the banks all have their fingers in the apple pie there in Ukraine. They're all looking to make money out of the Ukrainian war. It's a banker's war as usual. Wars are banker's wars. Anyway, they come past at an opportune time. They've come past at an opportune time, because what I was going to say is going around the country the last 18 months and talking about the cashless society, the 15-minute cities where they're trying to control us. Do you know what I found all around the country? There is kickback everywhere. Just because it's not in the newspapers, there is a kickback, there is a resistance. It's what I call a very British resistance going on. It's quiet, it's understated, it's not revolutionary. We don't do revolution in the UK. We're not revolutionary, we're reactionary. But what I see is a kickback going on. Everywhere I go, in communities, there's groups going out around all the shops, and they're putting leaflets up, they're talking to the businesses, there are groups going around giving leaflets out to the public, there's rallies going on up and down the country, groups fighting to stop the zones and the ULEZ. And around the country, and some groups are stopping it. Canterbury have stopped the 15-minute city rollout. The council have rejected it. Glastonbury have stopped it. Brighton have stopped it. Swindon, which is where I live, have stopped it. And you know what they've done? All they have done, so don't tell me activism doesn't work. All they've done is they've got into those council meetings and they've ripped apart their bullshit. That's what they've done. They've gone in there, they've spoken the truth, they've roared. Some of them have done it politely, some of them have done it in a bit more of a mouthy way like me, and been a bit difficult, but they've gone in there and they have stopped it. You can stop it here in Cardiff. You really can. You need to get together, and I kindly ask that you go to the lady in the pink raincoat if you want your help with this and you want to start going to council meetings here in Cardiff, because that's what you need to do if you want to stop it. The council is at the centre of it all here. This is great, we're rallying people and we're talking to the public, but if you want to stop this shit show, lies, you need to get into the council. And this lovely lady here, I don't know if she wants me to say her name, she's walking away. See, the other lovely lady in the pink, am I allowed to say her name? Sue, in the pink raincoat, please go and give your email address. It's all right. We're not going to be selling it off at big data. I always get people look at me. Oh, don't you ask for my email address? And I had someone get really angry with me up in Manchester. I was doing a rally up there, and I said somebody was filming, and I said, "Do you want to leave your details here?" And they're like, "Are you selling my data?" So we all feel like that, but so don't worry. Go and give your email address to the lovely Sue. By the way, Sue is working so hard here in Cardiff. I want to talk about what Sue's doing actually, because this is what I've been doing workshops on and working with groups across the country, encouraging them to do. And Sue is doing it, and she's being very brave because it's hard. What Sue is doing is what we all need to do, and then working past is about that. We need to stop the division. We all need to come together in Cardiff, around the country, and you need to go around the city, here, everywhere, and talk to all the different communities, the Muslim community, the Sikhs, the Hindus, the Church of England, the church groups, the community groups, the groups that represent the disabled, the groups that represent the poor, the food banks, the other groups, the residents groups that get together. Doesn't matter what they thought of some of us during the lockdown, and I was an anti-lockdown campaigner, it doesn't matter if we disagree on other things. We need to stop this. And the only way we are going to stop it is if we put divisions aside and come together on what we agree on. I ask you here today, and that's hard for me because I've been through hell the last 3 years. I've been abused by the police, so I can still stand here by them and not get angry. And that's a hard thing to do. I've been abused by the police in custody. I was sexually assaulted by the police in custody in Gloucestershire, by Gloucester Police. So more than anyone, imagine, it's hard, isn't it, to put aside what we've been through the last 3 years. But we have to, all of us, we've all been through hell, haven't we? We have to put aside any resentment of the last 3 years and come together with the public, whether they're vaxxed, whether they wear masks or wore masks. We need to find common ground. And do you know what the common ground is and why I do this? It's this! It's keeping cash, it's the 15-minute cities. Most people agree with us on this. This is a winner. This is a no-brainer of how we stop the tyranny. Because, and I'll end on this point, if they want to continue the New World Order, whatever you want to call them, the Great Reset, Mr. Klaus Schwab, the banks, more specifically, because it's really the banks that are doing this, they're just the talking, the tools that they're using. If we want to stop this banking, what I call fascist agenda with the state and banks, if we want to stop it, it's cash. Keeping cash is the way we do it. Because once we go cashless, we can't stand here. We can't march. You can't campaign for the rights of children. You can't campaign, whatever we think of that, if you're unhappy with immigration centres, and it doesn't matter what we think. I believe in the right to protest. They can't walk down the road, even though they hate us, for the Ukraine. We can't do any of that, because our money will be shut off. And that is around the corner, 2 years. 2025, they want to start the CBDC. Programmable money. We haven't got much time. But you know what? We're winning the war. Cash is up. 20% it's gone up since the last time I came here. 20% in circulation. Cash is up.
Hey.
We're winning. Whatever we think of GB News, and I do have my reservations, GB News, Nigel Farage helped put the issue on the agenda as well. This issue is on the agenda. And whether we believe them or not, the fact that the government, the Treasury, has announced in the last week that they are going to pass a law. Have you heard this? They are going to pass a law, and this is thanks to us, because we started all this, we started it. They're going to pass a law that there has to be a cash point within, I think it's 4 miles of every community. They're going to pass a law. You know, okay, it's crumbs. It's not the whole thing, but it's a bloody start. I honestly think we are winning the war. So please keep going. I ask every single one of you here, this is my last thing I'm going to say because I've been talking a long time. Don't just turn up to rallies. Please do a little bit more. Yeah? Go out, leaflet, 1 hour a week. Leaflet, help these wonderful people here. And Sue, leaflet. Go into the council once a month. You can do that once a month. Go to the council meeting instead of bringing in this shit show. And tell them what you think. Just that little bit more, please. Can you do that? And then I might have a holiday. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Debbie. Thanks so much, Debbie. I think we can all agree with everything that you said there. Now, I'd like to introduce another speaker. This is a different area, a different subject, but it's been pushed by a lot of the same people and the same institutions, right up to the United Nations around children, and this is around the relationship and sexual education of children, which is in the new Welsh curriculum, and it's being rolled out not only across Wales but across the rest of the UK, indeed the world. And I think that a lot of people don't realise just how explicit and age inappropriate this education is, and I think a lot of parents will be quite shocked as to what's being taught to their children. So I will hand over to Lucia Thomas to tell you all about it.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you Sue and everybody here for giving us the opportunity to share our message. So for any of you who don't know who I am, my name's Lucia Thomas, and I'm one of the founding members of Public Child Protection Wales. Woo! Thank you. So we've been campaigning against the RSE, that's Relationship and Sexuality Education, for the last 3 years. Yes, that's right, we knew about it before it came out and was publicly spoken about. The Welsh Government have been very sneaky about this rollout. They have, at every opportunity, demonised us as an organisation and our supporters, stating that we've been spreading misinformation and have even gone as far as labelling us bigots for not wanting our children to have this education. So, what are our main concerns about RSE, Relationships and Sexuality Education? Well, as our man here had said, it's a worldwide education. It is actually comprehensive sexuality education. It wouldn't take you long to find how disturbing this education is. You just need to do a quick Google check. This education has been in some states of America since the 1990s, and the detrimental effects are absolutely astronomical. In fact, there is 25,000 American young people who are on the transition regret register. That's 25,000 on the register. That doesn't include those children who are suffering in silence and those who have lost their lives due to this agenda. Now, this education has got three main theories. The first one, that children are sexual from birth. I don't need to go into how disturbing that statement is. You can all see how wrong and sinister that way of thinking is. The second is gender ideologies. Now this comes from a thinker, John Money, and these people believe that children can change their gender from a very, very young age. There's even reading books now that are present in school that tell children that it's the doctor that assigns their sex at birth and that there is over 100 genders. Children today are being confused by this very message. Then we've got queer theory. That is the third discipline that we're very concerned about. Queer theory comes from a series of thinkers who do not believe in childhood innocence. So I've got a little statement here from an Emma Reynolds. Emma Reynolds is she was a teacher, a lecturer, at Cardiff University, and she was heading the recommendation panel for the sex education in our schools of Wales. And I'm just going to read out a little statement that Emma Reynolds has put out publicly. She was, by the way, on the Welsh Government hub. Now she's been taken off due to scandals in America. However, her work is very much embedded in your children's education. Okay, so this is what she says. Queering childhood involves not just the queering of sex, gender, and sexual binary oppositions such as male masculinity and female femininity and heterosexual homosexual, but also the generational binaries, adult and child. So basically what she's stating here, there is nothing different between adult and child when it comes to gender and when it comes to sexuality. Queer theories aim to smash heteronormative culture. So that means man-woman relationships, but it also means smashing down those boundaries between children and sexuality. This is very, very dangerous. Now the government and schools are pushing this and stating that it is to do with safeguarding. It safeguards the children to give them the knowledge, and it says it's to make children more accepting and to make children more inclusive. Well, in fact, it does the exact opposite. And we are actually seeing this now going on in practice. It's not safeguarding children. In fact, it is signposting children to inappropriate content. Now, we're seeing in these schools now as young as 3, children are being told about correct terminology of genitalia, etc. And they're being informed of all these details that they should know nothing about. What is going on here, that children are being made to speak confidently about these matters, and we know that far from safeguards them, it does the exact opposite to safeguarding. As for the being inclusive, well, in fact, when they talk about being inclusive and including all children, they only really talk about children who are LGBTQAI+. They don't talk about children who have genuine disabilities, such as ADHD, such physical disabilities. No, they just focus on this one group. And in fact, it has been reported to us that in the wellness centres in school, they have health and wellness now. It is littered with the flags, the LGBTQ flags. So it is really speaking to children from a very young age about these sexualities. Do we have a problem with different sexualities? No, that is not what our campaign is about. Our campaign is about exposing children to inappropriate content and getting them to explore adult themes before their brains are ready. We know the prefrontal cortex at the front of our brains does not fully develop until we're 25. Yet the children are now being exposed to and are being encouraged to make adult decisions that will affect them for the rest of their lives, and this is something we are not going to stand by. Now, what should you do when your schools bring in this education? If your child is in primary school, they would have already been in receipt of that, because it was mandated from age 3 to 11 from last year in Wales. Now, what you should do, you should bring your concerns to the schools, but it's no good just 1 or 2 of you in each school doing it. You have to do it in the masses. Speak to other parents. There are a lot of parents out there who are not happy with what's going on, yet they stay silent because they are worried about backlash. This is not good enough, because if we allow this to happen, then more and more children are going to be harmed. We've had parents come to us stating that their children have actually been traumatised in the classroom and they didn't want to see the pictures that were being displayed. The teacher scolded them and told them they were to look at what they were being taught. When the parent complained to the schools, the school just fobbed it off and made out to the parent it was the parent putting the words into the child's mouth. But no, children are actually expressing that they do not want this education. When this education came in, it was meant to be about children's rights. I'm about children's rights. I believe that every child has the right to a childhood. They deserve to be protected from inappropriate information. They deserve to be protected against those who have got inappropriate things against children. However, these experts believe in children's rights in a completely different way. They believe that children's rights should go above parental rights. They believe when we're talking about children's rights, they're talking about children's sexual and reproduction rights. They believe that children's sexual rights should be the same as adult rights. There's a lot of very disturbing content and very disturbing thinking within this education. And it's up to us to stop it. If your schools won't do anything about it, go above their head. Please write to your councils. Please write to the Department for Education. These are the people that have been, yes, they have been pushing it, but we want them to be bombarded with complaints to show that we're not going to stand for it. Obviously, I can't give a lot of the information out here because there are children present, but I do ask everybody, I urge you to look this up and to check out our website, www.publicchildprotectionwales.org. There's lots of information that's all been fully documented. You will see that everything that we've been saying for the last 3 years is absolutely right. And the government do not have our best interests at heart. The government are not working, they're not working for the people. They're not working in our interests. There were 2 consultations regarding the new curriculum coming in, and this was back in 2019. The first consultation mentioned the RSE with no parental opt-out. Now there was an overwhelming 87%, or nearly 87%, of those taking part that disagreed with the RSE with no parental opt-out. But Welsh Government completely ignored that. A following consultation didn't even mention RSE, however, over 60% mentioned it and said they did not want this education in the schools of Wales. Again, that was ignored. So for any of you who've been following us or who may have seen this in the news, although it wasn't greatly reported on, surprise, surprise, there was a court case at the end of last year in November. And this was 5 claimants who were challenging the government to get the parental rights back when it comes to the sex education. Now we actually facilitated that court case, and it did have some good points, because I'll tell you in a while what we can take from this. Unfortunately, the court case didn't go in our favour, and it was an absolute disgrace actually, because the Welsh Government said when they were in the court that they argued that parents don't have that many rights anyway. They've actually used some European law against us parents, and they actually believe that they are the experts when it comes to children's sex education. So although it didn't go in our favour, we did appeal it, but the appeal didn't go in our favour. Apparently it doesn't go in public interest, even though we managed to raise over £100,000 of court fees from the public. It was the public that paid for it, yet in the court they decided that it was not in the public interest. More on that later. So what was good about this court case? It does actually pave the way for you parents to challenge your schools if the education isn't doing what it is meant to be doing. Right, first and foremost, the Welsh Government are insisting that this education is age and developmentally appropriate. It's also insisting that it is balanced It's balanced and it is factual. So if you find that your schools, and the judgment states this as well, if you find that your school is not teaching an education that is age appropriate to your individual child, and that it's not balanced and it is not factual, then you, as the parents, can challenge your schools in court, and you'll be able to get legal aid if your financial circumstances allow you to. So the court has paved the way for this, which is a good thing. We still do have a big fight on our hands, however. Right, so just moving on now to another factor that a lot of people may be aware about, and that is this thing called Drag Queen Story Hour. Has anyone heard of Drag Queen Story Hour? Yeah? Well, this is what's going on now. They've got drag queens going into libraries thanks to the taxpayers' money, because it's being financed by the local councils. So these drag queens are going in and talking to children about sexuality. People who have been protesting against these drag queen story hours are being named all sorts of things, bigots, transphobes, etc. Now I'm just here to tell you I've never had a problem with drag queens before now, because adult entertainment, you can choose to go in, pay, everyone's over 18, no issue with me. Maybe a little bit crude, if it's not your thing you don't have to go, but if you enjoy that then yes, you could go and see it. But what is happening now is this, drag queens are coming into children's spaces and informing them about different sexualities. The main drag queen that's been coming around in Wales is someone called Ada HD. There has been lots of protests regarding this, and also a petition for the one in Brecon was pulled. It was pulled down after it received 1,000 signatures to stop this drag artist coming to the town. So the reason why we don't want it is obviously children are being exposed to drag. We don't want children to look up to someone who is predominantly an adult entertainer. It's obviously not sending the best message to children. If we're going to have people coming in to speak to children on a professional level, bring in the nurses, the fire engine, the firemen, the police, whatever other, there's lots of different professions, accountants, lawyers, but no, they decide they have to bring in drag. They've also using these people, very colourful. Obviously there's going to be children who are going to look up to these people, and that can be very damaging, because they're actually looking at adult entertainers who are, well, they're not really giving the message that you want for children. There was a Queen tribute, well, a band or a dance act that was at the Eisteddfod. I'm not entirely sure what their names were, however, they put the Eisteddfod dance, which looked very child-friendly, on their TikTok account. The very next day, they put on the most crudest song you could think of. It's absolutely vile, and I can tell you now, there are children I know of who are of primary school age, from 7 upwards, and they are singing that song. Do you know why they're singing that song? Because these drag artists who were at a child-friendly event on their same platform had that song, and that song has now gone viral to the young children. This is another reason why we cannot have drag queens and children being mixed. There needs to be, no, it's not discrimination, we need to make sure the children stay innocent. As I said before, we don't discriminate against drag, we just do not want them teaching our children. So lots and lots of issues we got here. We do need more support. We do need more parents standing up and speaking to their schools. It won't be long until these drag queens will be coming to the schools. There was an incident in Isle of Wight, or was it Isle of Man? I'm not very good at geography. It was Isle of Wight, thank you. In Isle of Wight, they've actually pulled RSC out of the schools now, following an incident where a drag artist was at the school, scared the children by speaking about explicit sexual content, and actually told off one of the children who argued that there wasn't 100 genders. So if you don't want things like that to happen in your school, your children's schools, then you have to act now. It's no point acting later and crying about it and just moaning about it in private. You have to stand up now in public, and you have to be contacting your town councillors, your local MPs, your school teachers, and everyone else that needs to be fighting this with you. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Thank you for the team here for giving me the opportunity to speak. And have a lovely day, everyone. Thank you all for watching. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Lucia. I think we're all on board with that. And I have to say that Lucia and Kimberly and everyone at Public Child Protection Wales have fought this so hard in such a sterling way over the last few years, and at great cost to themselves. So I commend that very much. If you're interested in finding out more about public child protection in Wales or any of the issues we've been talking about, please do come and talk to us, or we've got information on the table. We're going to take a break from speakers now.